Hello and welcome to the training about how to use Medicare Plan Finder. My name is Eva Schifrin and I work at Disability Rights Wisconsin, where among other things we house the Disability Drug Benefit Helpline. Today we will be focusing on a website created by Medicare.gov called the Medicare Plan Finder. The Medicare Plan Finder is a great tool to help you find and compare Medicare drug and health plans and assist your client in choosing and enrolling in the plan that best suits his or her needs. In this training, you will learn and understand how to use the Plan Finder to access, enter, and review client information, to collect, verify, enter, and edit drug information, and how to evaluate plans and assist clients in making choices and enrolling in a plan. We are going to be using both the personalized and general search functions on this website. The personalized search requires that you know some information about your client, including their first and last name, zip code, date of birth, Medicare start date, and Medicare number. We will need other things as we progress. To do the personalized search, we are going to begin on the Medicare training website. Later we will convert to the regular Medicare website where we will be conducting our general search. To go to the Medicare training website, alright, we're going to scroll back to the top. Again, you can select the pharmacy that you want to look at and the mail order pharmacy and look at this chart pharmacy by pharmacy. You can also print this page. Medicare.gov has a variety of options for printing. Many individuals have problems printing. Some of these are due to glitches on the Medicare website, and some of them are due to technology issues that may exist at your office. The best way to ensure printing is to click on the print button. On this page there is a print button in the upper right-hand corner of this page. As you can see there, print. For now, we're going to close this window and go back into the plan results page. We're going to scroll down farther to look at more information about the plan. The next piece of information is under the heading Drug Coverage Information. This is where you can find information about the restrictions on a plan. This can be very important. There are three types of restrictions that a plan can impose on the drugs in its formulary: prior authorization, quantity limits, and step therapy. Prior authorization is a requirement that your doctor indicate that this drug is medically necessary for you before you can obtain coverage for that drug from your plan. Plans can establish different ways to allow doctors to indicate prior authorization for you. Some of them establish a provider line where your doctor can simply call and provide verbal confirmation that the drug is medically necessary. Other plans prefer a form and ask that your doctor fill out a form stating that the drug is medically necessary for you. The next potential restriction for a given drug is called a quantity limit. A quantity limit is exactly what it sounds: a limit on the number or the amount of a drug or medication that you can receive in a particular month. For quantity limits, the Plan Finder contains a very helpful feature. If you move your cursor over one of the yeses and click on it, another pop-up window will appear. This pop-up window tells you what the quantity limits are for a particular drug. The window that comes up, as you can see, you can click on any of the yeses and it will bring up the quantity limit chart for all the drugs that you have selected on your formulary. So for example, Empira has a quantity limit and it only allows you 2 of the Empira tabs at that dosage every day. Luckily, that's what our client takes. It's a good practice to check and make sure that the quantity limits match with what your client takes or exceed what your client takes, to know that your client will not run into any problems, particularly where you have increased the number of pills that the individual needs from the default setting in the Enter Your Drugs page. You should look to make sure that the quantity limits work for your client. You may recall that for our drug scenario, we increased the baclofen from the default amount up to 180 per month. As you can see, there's no quantity limit for baclofen in this plan. And it looks like for all the other drugs that we're also going to be just fine. Again, this page has a print feature at the top, so you can print from this page as well. So let's close out of this window and go back to our plan results and plan details page and talk about step therapy. Step therapy is a requirement that you try another drug and demonstrate that it did not work for you before you can get plan coverage for the drug you entered in the Plan Finder. Sometimes a particular medication is only one of many that can be used to treat a particular condition. If the drug you selected is more expensive than the other drugs, plans will often want you to try the lesser drugs. Let's go back to the plan details page and look at the final restriction, step therapy. Step therapy is a requirement that you try other drugs before the plan will cover the drug you selected in the Plan Finder. This occurs sometimes when there are multiple drugs that can be used to treat a particular condition, but the one that you have selected is an expensive one. Plans would like you to try the lower cost drug or drugs before it will approve coverage for the one that you selected. Sometimes individuals can't take one of the alternatives for a medical reason, and sometimes they have tried these other drugs and they have not worked. Step therapy requires your doctor to get involved and demonstrate that you have either tried the other drugs identified by the plan and that they have not worked, or demonstrates why the alternative medications proposed are not medically appropriate for you. This is also a good example on the Plan Finder where you can get more information on the Plan Finder about a particular meaning of a particular term or how to answer questions about the Medicare Part D Plan Finder and plan structure. Anywhere you see a question mark, you can click on it and get more information. So let's try one. Let's try quantity limits. It brings up a window and provides you with the definition of quantity limit. This drug list also contains something you might see, which is a footnote. As you can see, Ampyra has a footnote, and Ampyra is in one of the specialty tier drugs, which typically mean that they're more expensive or sometimes they are harder to get. And this is an example of a drug that may not be available at certain pharmacies because it has special handling requirements. So you may need to call your pharmacy or call your plan to find out if you will be able to get that drug at the pharmacy you selected. This is only one example of one footnote. You may run into more footnotes, in which case you can always ask. You can always call the plan and ask, and you can always call Medicare.gov and ask what that particular footnote means if the information contained at the bottom is not enough guidance. One final note on the restrictions portion of the plan details page. All of these requirements can be waived through a process called the coverage determination or the exceptions process. That's when you ask that a plan make an exception to one of these requirements for you. Some people prefer to avoid these requirements by looking at a different plan. For example, several of the plans that we looked at when we were scrolling down the list of plans were very close in cost to the plan that we're looking at right now. Some people would prefer to look at those plans and try and find one without any prior authorizations. And they may select that plan even though it costs a little bit more in order to avoid having to do paperwork. Some people do not want to try alternative medications and are willing to pay more to be in a plan to avoid a step therapy requirement. That is their choice. However, we can also help individuals with exceptions requests if necessary to avoid a quantity limit or a step therapy. Okay, we're going to continue down on our drug list. As we talked about earlier in the Enter Your Drugs page, I indicated that you would have other opportunities to add or edit drugs, and here's one of them. Right underneath the column we just talked about, you can click on Add or Edit Drugs. You can also print my drug list from here, and you can also print a plan report. So these are all good options for clients, and they format the information in a way that is easy to print for most printers. All right, we're going to continue scrolling down the page. The next column we're going to look at is the pharmacy and mail order information portion of the Plan Finder, or I should say row. And we're going to look at the pharmacy network. This is where you can find out the extent of the preferred pharmacy or network pharmacies available for a particular plan. So we're going to go ahead and click on it and take a look. A pop-up window will appear, and the pop-up window will have both a map and a list of pharmacies available within a particular mileage of the zip code that you entered. It will list the pharmacy type, and whether that pharmacy is preferred or not. In some instances, you may see a plan that has no preferred pharmacy within the mileage indicated at the top of this page. And you may want to see if you can find a preferred pharmacy for this plan. You can expand the mileage up to the maximum amount and see whether that results in an increased number of preferred pharmacies or in a preferred pharmacy where you previously did not have one within the indicated mileage. So this is the only place on Plan Finder where you can find out whether a particular pharmacy has a preferred pharmacy network. Okay, and again, you can print this, but for now we will close the window and we will go back to the plan details page. And the final piece of information on the drug details page is the drug list. And again, it just reviews what you have inputted into your drug list for the Plan Finder. So that is the basic information on how to use a Plan Finder. You can also always scroll back to the top and use the banner to go back to any of the places that you've been. So for example, you can go back to your plan results and go back to that list of plans if you would like to look at an additional plan than the one that we just looked at. So thank you. I hope I answered most of your questions. This can be very complicated. There are many different ways that people use the Plan Finder. This is a basic overview only, so feel free to contact me if you have any additional questions.